All right. So, um, I chose the theme of airlines for the apprentice team here, and it's because every year we have a theme, right? The first year we had a cruise theme, then we had a jungle safari theme. Last year we had a because of everything AI that was happening, we had a space theme, and this time we have two themes. Believe it or not, we have for the apprentice team members, we have the airline theme, and then for the ones that are working like Kyler and Anna and Natalie and Valerie, we have the career acceleration. The theme is NASCAR, and we're gonna talk about NASCAR later on. But why did I choose this theme? Is because um, life is a journey that sometimes clearly you don't have necessarily a destination. Sometimes um, a pandemic. Those of us that lived throughout the pandemic know that we had big plans and somebody else took over, right? It was a learning experience for me. It gave me an opportunity to learn a lot about myself. I actually uh, started doing my postgraduate degree, like a doctorate, at St. Thomas University on, believe it or not, spiritual companionship, spiritual direction at a Catholic um, university. Right after I went through to my priest recommended me to become a deacon, and it's a long story. I used to be a young adult minister at a parish for many years, and then when I left that, I started helping people, and Steve will also share some of that, how similar we are doing that. But as a young adult minister, I realized that that this period in our lives is the most critical and also the most difficult because people don't have the right support system to sometimes to go on after college. During college, you still have your parents around, but after college, basically you're on your own. All these career development resources that you had at the university, they're pretty much gone, you know. And um, and sometimes you're driving this plane and you don't know where you're going, right? And it's difficult, particularly if you don't know how to handle your finances, for example. Now you're put in that awkward situation that you're gonna have to fend for yourself. You're gonna make money, but also you need to learn how to spend it, right? You're also experiencing times of meeting a lot of people socially. Guess what? You start building relationships. And also, you throw in the fact that you're no longer thinking only about yourself, but you're also thinking about other people. And if you're getting married, like you heard Kyler before, now you're thinking about two becoming one and planning together for something. Where before it was only you, now it's two of you, right? And then um, that's hard also because you don't have a manual necessarily. So I'm here to tell you that um, I taking a slower ride. Sometimes in the 80s, I saw a movie called Back to the Future. And Back to the Future, you get in a DeLorean and you go back to yourself. That's what happened to Michael J. Fox. And he saw his goofy son as well when he went back into the future, right? But he tried to go back and help himself not make some of the mistakes that he made, and he made an even bigger mess at that time. It's a fun movie, but when I see it, it reminds me that we sometimes might feel that we don't have the manual like he has to the future. So, how do we start building that manual of life, right? If not by living it. So, I'm going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, which is mentorship. More specifically, how great leaders have great mentors. And my goal tonight is to share some stories and insights and tips that will help you leverage mentorship to reach new heights. So let's start with the basics. Before today, can somebody share here about a good mentor? You know, you have any mentors in your life? Raise your hand. Or Lorena. So what's a mentor to you?
A person that's gonna help you achieve your best, like guide you, like they're gonna they're gonna let you do the things on your own, but they're gonna help guiding you. Like the other day, you helped me, because I was applying for something in finance, and then Hernan helped me, asked if I did like the personality test, and then I found out that makes sense that I am more like a people person than like a person that's just gonna sit and do like things on the computer. So a person that is gonna let you experience, but it's gonna guide you and show you the best way to go.
Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly right. Actually, a mentor's like a coach, but a coach maybe knows uh, has a little bit more time to dedicate to giving you a list of things, and then you have a consistent meeting with a coach, and those people they cost money sometimes. Not everybody costs a lot of money, but they cost money because that's what they do for a living. A mentor is more a person that is specific in an industry or in a location. So your mentor can come to you in many ways, and you can have many, right? Uh, but the best mentors are the ones that you build a relationship with. Having a mentor is a game changer. By the way, studies show that people with mentors are more likely to get promoted, earn higher salaries, and achieve greater career satisfaction. How about that? So think about superheroes. I love superheroes. And so mentors like, Batman. No, Batman, my favorite superhero. No superpowers, but he had Alfred. Alfred would tell him, "Hey, I know you want to crash into here and there. Think about it twice." No? Or Spider-Man with Uncle Ben. No? Or Luke Skywalker had Yoda, a little green animal. And it's funny. I have one of my first proteges. She still calls me all the time. She calls me my pocket Yoda because every time she has an issue, she texts me, "Hey, I need your advice. I need your advice. You're my pocket Yoda." And I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to serve in that way, and I am privileged because yes, the longer that we spend time together, the more I know her. So she's kind of like checking herself. When she checks with me, she's checking on herself, going, you know me. I think I'm gonna do that, but I should really. I don't know. What do you think? Right? And that happens to me all the time. It happens to me with a lot of the people here, by the way. You saw a few of them: Valerie, Ana Maria, Macy, amazing Macy. It happens to me all the time, right? And it happens to many of my friends as well. We become available to people that care about the relationship, right? And that's one of the things that it's important as you're trying to develop mentorship, because trust is the number one factor. And I want to share a statistic with you. I don't know if you know, but 70%, 70% of Fortune 500 CEOs credit their success to having a mentor. 70%. So, and by the way, I saw it with my own eyes. And I'll share some of my experiences with my mentors that I still hang out with. Okay. But I worked at Bank of America for 10 years. When I started at Bank of America, Brian Moynihan was the lawyer, but I saw how he, by the CEO at that time, would put him into different jobs, right? Commercial banking, consumer banking. He would put him in credit, and eventually he put him as the president. And then when the CEO retired and became the chairman, he became the CEO. And then the chairman retired, he became the CEO and chairman. But guess what? He had a tremendous mentor that trusted him. You know? So I shared with you in the app. How many of you have seen the app that we're using called Halo? Uh, Lorena, I know you're here in video, but if you've seen that it has little. I don't mean I saw that you saw it, but I will encourage you to look at there because I'm posting also the books that we're talking about or material that we're talking about. So I shared the entire book with you that I think you should read it, and it's one of the books that changed my perspective in life, particularly in my latter stages as an executive. It's called The Speed of Trust. The Speed of Trust. And if you know the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that his son wrote the book The Speed of Trust, Stephen Covey Jr. And what he talks about in his book is how you accelerate things when you have trust. So how many times you've been in a situation? I know, and I use Macy as an example because we work together. Macy, I tell her 3 things, and by saying 3 things, she understands and she acts, on the 3 things because I trust her and she trusts me, but most importantly, because of that trust, we accelerate things. So that's what happens when you focus on building trust and finding the right mentor, that Yoda persona, or building a board of advisors should be in your priorities as you're starting your career. So you don't have the book, but you have people that are writing it as we speak. And guess what? You get a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and you build your own manual, right? But going blind in a space like I am here today, it's hard, right? So hard because you don't know the destination. That's why it's so important to build those relationships. So the first thing that I would ask is when you're looking at potential mentors, because they're everywhere, right? Is to look around you, right? We build this wonderful network, but you can find them in your workplace, in your professional networks, and even in social media. The key is to identify someone that you respect and who has experience and qualities that you aspire to have. So if you want to be like somebody, you're looking for those type of people, right? Of course, Elon Musk might not be available. Might be a great mentor to the people that he has around, but unless you're Natalie and you lived in U.S. and in Southern California, and maybe now you have a connection to Elon Musk, but it's so hard for somebody from Puerto Rico or Brazil, this and that, to be in these circles. I say nothing is impossible, but where do you start? So you start around. No? I started my career as a banker when I was 22 years old. I went to a bank called Hamilton Bank, and they put me in an analyst program, which I hated because they put me to analyze numbers, and I get bored. By the way, I get bored when I see a lot of spreadsheets and things. I haven't been diagnosed with ADD, but probably if they had that diagnosis, I would have been close to that. Although I've calmed down a lot, and my daughter, I know she has some same thing, which is she likes to talk. I like to talk. I cannot concentrate. So therefore, numbers are not my thing, right? And it's funny that I mentioned this to you because I've had a 30-year career in banking. But I learned that to look at things a different way, right? If you look at, so for example, I looked at financial statements I didn't understand, but they are the skeleton to any body or company. So if you know the skeleton, and if you know the veins, and if you know the muscles, guess what? You understand the body and its movements. And therefore, now it opened my eyes to understanding finance from that perspective. So I want to understand what's happening. I really got to practice and do this. So my mentor at that time, which was my senior credit analyst at the time, he explained to me, what I needed to do. And then I moved on to the next level. My natural mentor was my dad. My dad was the chief marketing officer for a company called Blue Cross Blue Shield in Puerto Rico. And he used to take me to Chamber of Commerce conferences when I was in Puerto Rico. And my mom, also one of my great mentors, my mom was the CEO of the Better Business Bureau. My mom was breaking glass ceilings when they were made of cement. So imagine a powerful woman in the 70s and 80s. She was, there were a few and far between, right? Hard times for women. So we've come a long way. Women have come a long way. But what happened was she had to do a lot of groundbreaking stuff. And she was so sure of herself that she, whenever she was in a place, she had a lot of presence. And she made her presence known because she was confident and she was knowledgeable. She didn't talk things that she didn't know, right? And I learned that I have to wait my turn and speak in the right moment. Sometimes as a young guy, you want to, young guy or young woman, you want to speak, but sometimes it's a desperation. I learned patience, right, from my mom. And it's funny because she loved to party and talk, but when she was the CEO mom was spoke with authority, right? That's what I learned a lot from her. So my dad, when I was 26 years old, going into banking, I saw things that were not easy. For example, I saw relationships of senior execs with people with staff members, and I didn't like that. I got married at 25, and those weren't really good role models for me. I also saw, mismanagement of information, some backstabbing, you might call it. So I didn't feel comfortable with the business environment and culture where I was. And I saw myself in getting deeper into a bind. I went into a small depression at that time. My dad passed away when I was 26 years old, and I was searching for clarity in life, and also for good mentors. I found clarity and I found good mentors. My first mentor was a guy named Oscar Gomez, who was my manager at a bank called Union Planners, now Regions Bank. Oscar is a great friend of mine. We were born the same day, February 25th. And Oscar he did something that I truly appreciate till today, which is he gave me a chance. He gave me a chance, and I took it, and I did the best that I could. And because he trusted me and I trusted him completely, we were able to shorten the time in learning, because I did what he told me. And yes, I expressed to him my opinion, but once I had my debate, I knew he had my back, and that he would take care of me. And that's how it worked. I started there. I handled correspondent banking at Regions Bank for Andean region, for Peru, Brazil, for Peru, Colombia, Venezuela. And I started going by myself to these places. Little did I know that he was calling his friends, "Hey, Hernan, when he's there, check up on him." And but he gave me a chance to do that, right? And but I had a Brazilian girlfriend in college, and I wanted to be at the Brazil desk of a bank at some point. Well, little did I know that the crisis hit in the year, the Ecuadorian crisis hit in the year 2008. And we had $100 million portfolio. And he told me, okay, Hernan, you need to go on a plane every week until you collect those $100 million. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I went every week for 3 to 4 months, knock on the door with my young face, knock on the door of the central bank. Sir, I don't know if you know, but we lent to you $100 million. I will not leave here until you guys pay me. Well, because of following that advice and being consistent with the being there, finally they found a way to pay us, and because of that, our bank got saved $100 million in loans in Ecuador, and I basically my boss told me, what do you want to do? Well, I wanna manage Brazil. So he gave it to me. He said, you know what? He did a political move. He moved somebody that I liked, but I went for my dream. I didn't want to backstab the guy, but he said, you know what? This guy was loyal and trustworthy, and I'm not gonna increase his salary. He did, but I'm gonna give him what he really was dreaming for, and I became friends with the people in Brazil. I used to travel a lot to Brazil, and I was one of my best friends was the CEO, the head of Banco do Brasil, the largest bank in Brazil, who later on became my boss at a bank called Bladex. Was also a good mentor and friend. So I'm sharing this story not to boast, but to tell you that listening to your mentor sometimes pays off, because they may have your interest at heart, right? If they're good people, they have a good interest at heart. Of course, I had really bad mentors as well. That were some of them were focused on women. Some of them were focused only on money. And I immediately, when I see these situations, I I started finding other people, because I just cannot relate to these things. And by the way, don't get me wrong. Of course, from women are talking, but I'm married, so I need to be respectful. And the same thing with money. If obsessed with money but not caring about other people, that's not me, right? That's not what I live for. I live in truth, and in knowing that I always try to do the right thing for people, right? And sometimes the right thing means that I'm not gonna make that much money. It's okay, right? That's why most of the mentors that are here at Apprentice that were my friends, we believe the same thing. We value the relationship over the business. Right. And these people, most of them, we've done great business together, but sometimes, you know, you keep pushing over the limit. You don't do that. You value the relationship. So same thing, we value the relationship that we have with the mentors, right? Um, Another good mentor that I had, Luis Carlos Couto, and I share these names because I want you to meet them at some point. Luis is the head of Latin America for Bank of America for financial institutions, and he was a good friend of mine and a boss. What he did is he gave a chance to a lot of the young women that worked with him at Standard Chartered Bank, and helped them out when he was at Bank of America. And then one thing that he did is he knew that I was an executive, that I looked a little younger, and that he didn't have time to deal with these things in 2007. So he put me in charge of training them at that time. By the way, those of you that know the eco influencers here, Nalisa and I met, and she was one of the young adults there, and I was her mentor at that time. So, and then Apprentice Worldwide happened around 2013, 2014. I worked in Bank of America for almost 10 years, and I left in 2015. Uh, The point of these stories are to make it a little personal, but what I want to share is um, not only my experience, but also the experience of, for example, Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know Mark if everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg, but him and Steve Jobs, right, were always talking together, and mentorship really play a big part on Facebook's growth. So again, time and time again, you see that the story where trust is built is where people move ahead, right, in their careers. So mentorship isn't just about getting advice, right? It's about using that advice to help you navigate your career. It also means giving back. So you might feel that you don't have anything to give, but your presence and your listening sometimes is enough, right? Because the opposite ensues. You can destroy a relationship if you're not present, or if you don't, you don't follow on your commitments. So people make themselves available to you over doing something else is because they care, right? So I value that so much that every time that I meet with my mentors, I give them my undivided attention. Um, by the way, Oscar, Luis, Tom Ovation, you name it. I have a long list. I still call them every month, almost every week, and I bounce ideas with them, right? And I do it, and when they are in a bind as well, and I feel I can contribute, I try to give back for the many times that they for the many things that they did for me. So again, um, mentorship, right? Mentorship. Uh, Keep it at the top of your mind when you feel like you're flying solo. Um, I became the general manager for Banreservas because a friend of mine that worked with me at uh, at Wells Fargo, we used to sit together 6 years together, and every time that he was the head of the Dominican Republic at Wells Fargo, and I was the head of trade finance. So every time he had an opportunity, I'm the technical expert. I worked with him on getting things done, and he did some of the largest deals in the Dominican Republic with my help. And in the in between, besides talking about our lives, we talked about faith, and we talked about our passions, helping people out. At that time, we had some struggles because we were Marilena and I were trying to adopt a child, and it didn't work out. And I shared my story with him, and he eventually ended up adopting a daughter. Um, but Jose and I became very close for many years, and we kept tabs with each other. And when he needed somebody that he could trust, he picked up the phone and called me. And I was working at the federal government, at the Small Business Administration, in charge of Hispanic affairs, and it was a cushy job. It was not a very lucrative job, but as a government job, it gave me a lot of security. But when Jose calls, it's like if my brother calls or my mother calls, right, or my dad calls. Rest in peace, all of them. When Jose called me at the beginning, he wasn't sure about what he wanted. He wanted just straight finance, and I spoke to him, and he go, "Well, I'm doing well in the federal government." And then he came back to me and said, "You know what? There's nobody that I can trust more than you with the keys of our bank in the United States." Um, and one of the stories that we shared is when he became the representative for the bank in the Dominican Republic. That was one of his dreams. I came from Peru from a trip, and I bought him a little bell. And I told Jose, man, you've been dreaming of this for 10 years. So I brought to you this little bell, and I want you to ring it because you were that little kid dreamt of this moment. So sometimes life passes by and we don't celebrate the little things. So here's a bell. Ring it because it's a dream. Guess what he did? When he gave me the keys of Banreservas in the US, the keychain had a bell. And that was, you know, 15 years later. So again, building relationships based on trust, developing mentors that can help you with the manual that you really don't have, but you can gather a page here, a page there. Hopefully, the books that you select these pages from are good books, not crappy books, right? And I'm sure that you're going to be successful, uh, regardless, because you guys, highly motivated and patient, right? And are here, which shows that you care about uh, doing that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for me.
Can you tell more about the book, Les?
Yes. By the way, there's two books. I didn't talk about networking, which is the second topic that I usually talk about networking. But there's two books that I'm going to recommend. Okay, one, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, phenomenal book. Um, the second is the my favorite, which is Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty by Harvey McCabe, and that is every chapter is 2 pages. So it's I call it a bathroom book because it's really fast to read. But it showcases strategies of time and time again where networking led to a next level in the person's career or movement, right? So, and then the third, which I know Kyler will appreciate. I don't know if Kyler, if you're still here, but
I am indeed, my
the
friend.
the book is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. The Infinite
Ah,
Game is if you're playing an infinite game, and I won't steal the thunder of the book, but if you play an infinite game, you never lose. You never lose because a game, a regular game, is built on a time frame, right? So a corporation lives year by year, right? An annual report based on activity, and if your numbers come out bad, the stock will go down, right? Or a score of a game is an hour long, or two 45-minute sessions, right? And if you lose because there's time runs out, but when you play an infinite game, right? When you're building your dreams, when you're doing things that are changing lives, you play an infinite game. There's no agenda that can stop you, right? It's really you and the things that you do. By the way, I'm writing a book, which I'm going to publish in 2025, which is called Building Career Momentum, and it's things that I've learned here and there, but uh, I'll give you a gist. But Building Career Momentum is based on the 3 laws of Newton, that I did a little project when I was in 8th grade, on the 3 laws of Newton. But it's things that are always in motion only stop, right, when there's friction, right? But if you keep the wheels in motion in your career, the likelihood of success is greater. And you want me to share the three wheels that are moving? So one of them is networking inside your organization, networking outside in your community, and the third, never stop learning, right? These 3 things from when you start working. So Nicholas, from now until you retire, you cannot stop any of these three wheels, because guess what? If you stop networking inside your organization, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. They're not gonna. People are not gonna know you, right? And it's networking,
Yeah.
not politics. The other one is if all of a sudden they change your boss, the boss doesn't like you, and you don't have relationships on top because you just focus on that relationship. Then you don't have the other two wheels turning. You're basically out of luck. So the other one's networking outside the community. So you do everything inside your company. You know your bosses. You know everything. All of a sudden you're out of a job, and guess what? You have nobody to talk to. And then the third is always trying to be relevant. And by the way, that's a great transition to Mo Hassan's talk next week, which is all about staying relevant by looking at industry trends and adjusting. So again, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but if you guys are here for that talk, you'll be basically future proof. No matter what happens in the industry in the next 40 years, you will be future proof. Okay, so that's just a teaser for what Mo is going to talk about. We ran out of time. It's 7:56. I put here in the agenda that we're going to do these things from 6:30 to 8. Next week we're going to end up a little earlier if we can. Remember that if you want to, we're going to have weekly check-ins, and guys, all of us are going to have weekly check-ins so that we can share how it went with our mentors. But by next week, all of you should engage your executive mentor, right? And remember, the first conversation is all about getting to know them. So once you get to know who your mentor is, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit him up on LinkedIn. You're going to do research about the guy or the woman, right? And you're going to basically stalk him for a week until you meet. Right? You're gonna check everything on the guy, articles, that. So when you have a conversation, it's all about him, right? And he or her are gonna probably ask, okay, so what did you learn about me? And then you're gonna share. You might know a lot more than they want you to know, but it doesn't matter, because at the end, they're gonna tell you about who they are and what's important to them, right? And some of these things might not show on social media. And that's important as you start building trust, understanding the important things about the people that you interact with. Because guess what? Maybe those are the things that matter to those people more than working at Apple or at Citibank. Maybe understanding the non-for-profit that maybe their mom had cancer, and this is and they work in the board of the Cancer Society. I don't know. That might be more important to them than the actual job. So that's why it's so important to understand the person, not so much the brand or what you see. Okay. So I want you guys to really dig deep into learning about that person. And then the following week, Mo is going to talk about, future-proofing yourself for industry changes. Then at that time, in your second session, you can talk about the industry that you want to work on and have frank discussions about it. So if you're in technology, you'll have a chat about technology, finance, marketing, right? And then you'll do a little research at that time. I'm going to give you some tips on how to prepare for that meeting, okay? But this one is all about getting to know your mentor, okay? Any questions? Okay, guys. So next week, I'll see you. If I don't see you, if you have any questions, please reach out to me or Tyler, who's my wingman, and Anna, who's not here this week, but she's also one of the I don't want to call them flight attendants. They're more like technical experts in flights. Huh? I'm the captain, and they're the engineers, I would say, not the flight attendants. But right, Kyler?
Yes, indeed. I
if my
fly.
if my
I fly. I fly just about every week at this point, so I'm pretty used to the flight attendants. I think I can help out.
if my wing is burning, I know you'll find the extinguisher, or at least
Yeah,
know where it is.
that's exactly right.